In today's video, we are once again going to be talking about multiple upcoming major snowstorms, including one this weekend. Real quickly, let's talk about my consulting company, Prestige Weather. We're closing out an amazing year with so many happy customers. If you're looking for more than the generic hourly or daily forecasts that can be so frustrating and very broad, look no further than Prestige Weather. We help out individuals and businesses alike. If you're an individual looking for better, more accurate, and direct weather information, be sure to subscribe to our standard package. That's only $4.99 a month. You get early access to direct weather, seasonal, and monthly forecasts, also weekly one-on-one calls with us talking about the weather, and regional forecasts cater to your area. If you're a business, organization, or event manager, be sure to email us at prestigeweather@gmail.com or use the sign-up sheet on our website business section. We would love to work with you. We've been helping out so many businesses, organizations, and events just like yours plan for the weather ahead. We offer consulting calls, texts, and emails catered to your exact location of need. We will be on standby during your job or event and give you updates from start to finish. We also offer long range, medium range, and short range forecasts. We can help with rainfall and snowfall forecasts, plus the timing of onset and ending, which is so important. We pride ourselves on being highly flexible, and we're always willing to deliver on your specific needs. Put a meteorologist in your pocket so you no longer have to guess what the weather will do. Let's dive into things. Now, as we go ahead and take a look at our current European model run here as of last night, these ones come out a little bit later. The European model runs come out quite late. Keep that in mind. The GFS model runs come out a lot earlier in the day. So when the 12Z GFS run is coming out, for instance, you're going to have to wait probably about 2 or 3 hours for that European 12Z model run. That's a general rule of thumb. As we head towards Tuesday afternoon here on January 2nd, that's going to be today, obviously, we can see that there is some showery activity, both in the form of rainfall and snowfall for the Northwest, also rainfall for Texas, and then a coastal storm that is offshore of the East Coast, not causing any impacts for land there. As we reach towards Wednesday the 3rd here, we see all of this energy along the west coast kind of diving southward. Keep in mind that when we're in an El Nino, we usually have a very strong flow from the south here, moving across the nation from west to east, and we're seeing this happen. So as this storm moves southward, we expect it to move eastward eventually. Also, we have a quite favorable jet stream pattern with cold dipping into the eastern states here. Now, this one actually had a lot of potential here that we see over the Gulf. We do not expect to see this come together at this point, but originally we did expect this to maybe be a little bit closer to the coast. We're going to watch it kind of move well offshore, really get suppressed too far to the east and too far to the south to cause much in the way of snowfall. We get some snowfall showers here for the southern Appalachian Mountains here for North Carolina and Virginia, as well as Tennessee, but that's about it. So just some snowfall showers moving in overnight Wednesday into Thursday, and then that storm, as you can see, is too far offshore to really bring any impacts to the coast. It's really unfortunate because we are certainly cold enough along the eastern seaboard here, but it's just too far offshore. We are seeing snowfall heavier in spots here for the Four Corner states, and we're going to watch all of this move eastward. This is really when we need to start talking here, Friday afternoon on the 5th, and this is going to be our major snowstorm here for Texas and Louisiana. This one is going to move northward and really cause some major snowfall in the mid-Atlantic and northeastern corner of the nation. As we reach the 6th here, we can see that this thing is primed and ready to go. It's currently located over South Carolina as a 998 millibar low pressure center, and it is currently by this point on Saturday the 6th bringing snowfall to Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Virginia, and West Virginia. Even some freezing rain here for North Carolina and Virginia. We're going to be watching for that potential ice storm down there to the further south areas. It's as we reach the overnight night hours here of Saturday into Sunday. That's going to be the 6th into the 7th. We see heavy snowfall here for Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, and even Maryland there. Extremely heavy snowfalls. This is a 991 millibar low pressure center located over the Delmarva there. Very close to the coast as we have cold air moving in. And we can see that as we reach kind of the afternoon hour here of the 7th, we see southern New England gets in on a lot of this, and even into Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and southern regions of New York, and then again southern New England, so Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island especially. And we eventually see this one come to an end. Keep in mind that we will be showing this total snowfall in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. We're going to go over the GFS and the European models total snowfall, so we're going to get both perspectives here in just a moment. Now we're already on to our next storm, 996, located somewhere between New Mexico and Texas here by Monday on the 8th. This one is pretty far out, so take it with a grain of salt, but certainly going to be something to watch here. And you can see that by the time we are reaching Tuesday afternoon, we have a really, really ripe pattern. 981 millibar low pressure center there over Louisiana, or Illinois better yet. And we have heavier snowfall mixing in for a lot of Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan here, and even on the eastern end for areas like Pennsylvania and New York. Keep in mind that it is really important to note kind of the dynamics of this storm. We have a cold front underneath here, and we have a warm front here. So even though we're seeing snowfall over Pennsylvania and New York, we expect this warm air to continue to move northward through here. So areas may start as snow, eventually changing over to rainfall. And that is not what you want, because if any of it accumulates, it doesn't really matter. You are going to see rainfall kind of really melt that snow that is going on. And especially since we have colder temperatures on the way afterwards, black ice becomes a concern at that point with a lot of water on the roadways. Definitely something to watch for. As we reach the overnight hour, as it tends to do sometimes, it gets a lot colder. And this storm is really, really strong by this point. 978, 75, I can't tell what that third number is there, but we have heavy snowfall over Wisconsin, Michigan, down through Illinois and Indiana as well. So definitely a very intense storm. We have this cold front stretching down all the way as far south as the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and this warm front extending here for a lot of these states further towards the east, like Maine and New Hampshire. Still seeing snowfall in those mountainous regions of New York, or New England better yet. As we keep going towards Wednesday afternoon, this storm finally lifts off, and we're kind of left with a pretty average pattern after all of that is said and done. Although I will tell you, we have the same setup once again, where we have the warmer air returning to the east, but we have a low developing on the eastern front of all of this. You can expect to perhaps see a cold front develop along that southern edge, warm front along the northern edge, and this would mean the cold would be headed eastward once again, and potentially we'd be like looking at another snowstorm after it's all said and done. Now the GFS, I'm just going to skip straight to our storm here. We don't want to mess around with too much information that's not really up for debate or doesn't really matter. But we see this is a 997 by the time we're reaching overnight Saturday into Sunday. Again, definitely something to watch here. 997 here, heavy snowfall for Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, and even Maryland there. Very heavy snowfall with this one. And we continue this on, and we get a very similar path. It's just to the south of New England, and we get Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and even southern New England in on that heavier snowfall. So you can tell that there is great agreement here between the GFS and the European model, which tends to be something that forecasters look for when forecasting these types of storms. You know, you don't want to see these models hugely disagreeing. You want to see them on the same page, and we definitely have them on the same page here. As we keep going, we see this second storm develop. Looks a lot more amped on this GFS model. As you can see, a 972 while it's still near Mississippi here. Cold front underneath, warm front up above. This is the setup. We have a lot of warm air moving in and pushing northward as well. And then we have the cold air trying to funnel in underneath all of this. A very, very intense storm, much more intense here on this GFS model as opposed to the European model. We again get another Great Lake and Midwest heavy snowstorm, just like we saw in the European model. We have a little bit more snowfall here on the eastern end of things for states like New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Certainly something to watch. They do switch over to rain, like I mentioned earlier, eventually, and then that one is all said and done. We get a little bit more a little bit longer perspective here from the GFS model, as this one goes to 15 days. The European model only goes to 10 days, but we get a much longer kind of range here on your GFS model. We do get another Ohio Valley and Midwest storm here by the time we're reaching the 15th. Definitely very far out. Certainly want to take this with a grain of salt. I think the biggest thing here isn't exactly this storm. It's more of that we continue to see storms and we're in a stormy cold pattern. That's the biggest takeaway here, but I will say this one is quite major and actually does have a lot of similar characteristics to this weekend's storm, as you can see, with very heavy snowfall over West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. Does it seem familiar? It should, because it's almost taking an identical track to that first storm. Very heavy over New England, whereas your first storm that we're seeing upcoming soon, it kind of slides off that southern New England coast. That's the black line for this weekend storm. The GFS here for this new storm later on, we see it just continue up the coast, and that is going to create much more snowfall for the northern regions of New England. Keep that in mind. And then we come to an end of this model run. We do still have snowfall over the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, as we have once again another snowstorm here, but we're not going to discuss that today because that is way too far out to even think about. Now, the total precipitation, we have quite a bit over the northwest, as again our storm originates here, moves through this area, dives southward, and then eventually kind of does this as it tracks up the east coast. And we can see a lot of precipitation over the course of multiple storms here for the eastern states. These two areas that I'm drawing in here are primarily where we're watching for above average precipitation. Now, as far as total snowfall here, definitely looks very, very intense for the east here. On the European model, we only get this one singular snowstorm. We will zoom into the northeast in a moment, but take a look out west as well. Certainly, the rich get richer here. As we can see, there's plenty of snowfall expected out west, feet of snowfall for the Rockies, Cascades, and Sierra Nevadas. Definitely the upper Midwest and Great Lakes getting quite a bit, but the Northeast is the most surprising here, as they've had a very mild winter so far, seeing a very, very major snow system here in the first week of January, just coming up in a few days. Now, the GFS model, again, this is 15 days of total snowfall. We get 3 major snowstorms here in the Northeast, and that's why we end up with such huge totals. We will zoom into this in a moment, but take a look out west like I just mentioned on the European. We also have plenty of snowfall to go around here on this GFS American model run as well as the plains into the Midwest and Great Lakes, where we have 1 to maybe even 3 feet of snowfall there over the course of the next 15 days. Now, let's take a zoomed in perspective. Like I mentioned, on your European model, we do see plenty of snowfall, especially here in Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, and then southern New England like Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, even Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine here getting quite a bit, as well as the Adirondacks of New York. Anywhere in the grays is a dusting. If anything, blues are 2 to 6 inches, purples are 6 to 10, your pinks are 10 to 20, and then your pastel blues, like we see here for some of these higher mountainous regions of West Virginia into Maryland and Pennsylvania, that is going to be 20 inches plus. So certainly a hefty snow system here, according to the European model. Let's just take this back to just the first storm here. And this is going to be the totals on your GFS model. We don't have those 20-inch plus amounts here, but we certainly see 10 to 15, maybe even close to 20 inches here throughout New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio here, West Virginia, Virginia, and Maryland. It looks like a similar track to that 2016 storm. I forget the name of that one, but definitely less intense, as that storm was obviously a very, very historic one, probably top 3 eastern snowstorms in recent memory. This is not going to be quite that. This one might go down as one of the biggest ones we've seen in years, though. Definitely a major snowstorm, to say the least. As we tack on more totals over the course of 3 or 4 snowstorms here in the Northeast, we're left with 20 to even 50 inches of snowfall throughout areas like Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, and even the rest of New England as well. Keep in mind, you want to take this with a grain of salt. This is certainly a whole lot of snowfall. Very, very unusual to see this much over a 15-day period in this area. So you want to take it with a grain of salt, especially the further south you go. This is definitely on the higher end of things, if you ask me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily uploads just like this one. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.